Something is breathing beneath the ice. Not just one thing, not even a few thousand things. 60 million. Imagine drifting across the Weddell Sea. The air is 40 below. The ice is a solid, crushing barrier. You expect a wasteland, a place where life goes to die. But beneath your feet, a shocking hidden city exists that science said was impossible. This isn't a theory. It's a shock to the system of every biologist on Earth. Antarctica is the ultimate no man's land. We think we know it because we have satellites. We think we've mapped it. We haven't. The Filchner Ice Shelf is a slab of ice the size of California. Underneath it lies a dark, pressurized world. There is no sunlight. There is almost no food. In early 2021, the Polar Stern research ship was hovering over a section of the seabed. They lowered a car-sized camera known as the OFOBs. They expected to see mud and rocks. Instead, they saw the icefish, scientifically known as Neopagetopsis iona. These aren't normal fish. They are ghosts. Their blood is transparent. They have no hemoglobin, no red blood cells. They look like they are made of glass, and they were sitting on top of millions of circular nests. Each nest was a perfectly carved bowl in the mud. Each one was guarded by a single, silent parent. Why? Why would 60 million creatures congregate in the one place humans can't reach? This is where the mystery gets strange. Because the scale of this colony is so massive, it actually changes the chemistry of the Southern Ocean. Let's put this in perspective. Think of the biggest football stadium you've ever seen. Now fill every sea with a fish nest. Now do that for 500 stadiums. That is what is happening under the ice right now. 60 million nests, covering an area larger than the city of London. The biomass is staggering. But here is the question that keeps scientists awake. How does a ghost fish with clear blood find enough energy to stay alive in a world of total darkness? The answer involves a hidden engine beneath the seafloor, an engine that might be connected to the very core of the Earth. If you skip the next part, you'll miss the terrifying truth about what else might be living down there. To understand the nests, you have to understand the architect. The Jonah's icefish is an evolutionary freak. Most animals need red blood to carry oxygen. The icefish doesn't. It absorbs oxygen directly through its skin. Its heart is massive. It pumps clear, antifreeze-filled fluid through its veins. It is perfectly adapted for the cold, but even the most adapted creature needs a reason to gather. Imagine 18,000 square miles of nothing. Then, suddenly, a crowded metropolis. The researchers were stunned. They watched the live feed for 4 hours. They saw a nest every few seconds. Total silence. Total order. But as they looked closer at the footage, they noticed something disturbing. Between the active nests, there were thousands of dead zones, piles of fish bones and carcasses, graveyards within the city. Something is feeding on this colony, something big. How do you feed 60 million mouths in a desert? That was the first problem. There is no phytoplankton under the ice. There is no sun to grow plants. Usually, life in the deep sea relies on marine snow. This is bits of dead stuff falling from the surface, but the ice shelf blocks the snow. So, where is the food coming from? The team used chemical sensors. They found that the water in this specific area was exactly 2 degrees warmer than the rest of the Weddell Sea. In Antarctica, 2 degrees is the difference between life and death. This warmth creates a conveyor belt of nutrients. It pulls in zooplankton from miles away. It creates a buffet in the middle of a wasteland. But why is the water warmer? Is it a volcanic vent? Is it a shift in the Earth's crust? Or is it something we haven't discovered yet? Most people think they know what's at the bottom of the ocean. They are wrong. Forget everything you know about survival of the fittest. In the Weddell Sea, it's about survival of the hidden. This colony has likely been there for centuries, untouched, unseen. While empires rose and fell on the surface, the ghost fish were building, but the camera caught something else. Something that shouldn't be possible at these depths. It wasn't a fish, it was a track in the mud. A track that was too wide to be made by any known Antarctic creature. We are just scratching the surface of this accidental discovery. And what we found next changes the history of the continent. Now that you understand why this fails to meet normal biological standards, here's what actually works in the deep. We have to look at the shadows, because every city has predators, and in the dark beneath the ice, those predators are unlike anything you've ever imagined. We are going deeper into the dead zones. To reach the true depth of this ancient mystery, we must look at the 10,000-year-old art of survival. The Weddell Sea has always been highly guarded by the ice. Explorers like Shackleton faced terrifying disappearances here. They saw the surface, a barren landscape of impossible cold. But they never knew that beneath their sinking ships, a massive, ancient structure of life was thriving. The ghost fish have seen ancient history unfold from below. They were there before the Great Flood. They were there when the pyramids were built. While humans fought wars for land, these fish were fighting a war for survival against the pressure of the abyss. This is the hidden connection between all life on Earth. Even in the most impossible places, life finds a shocking way to organize. Look at the specific geometry of the colony. The nests aren't just holes, they are megalithic, feats of engineering for a creature with no hands. Each fish must clear the mud, it must defend the perimeter, it must ensure the thermal hole continues to flow. This is mind-blowing archaeological evidence of a non-human society. If we found this on Mars, it would be the biggest story in history. But because it is under the ice, it remains an uncharted mystery. The banded truth is that we are not the only masters of construction on this planet. The ghost fish built their city before we built our first stone huts. And they did it without AI voices or technical problems, just pure biological authority. You might ask, is this useful to me personally? The answer is yes. The survival of these fish depends on the deep sea mysteries of ocean currents. Those same currents regulate the weather in your hometown. If the thermal hole in the Weddell Sea shifts, it is a warning loop for the entire globe. We are tracking a terrifying change in real time. The ghost fish are the canaries in the coal mine. If they vanish, we are next. This is the emotional impact of understanding our genetic heritage and our planetary future. The discovery was only the beginning. Now, we have to look at the consequences of 60 million lives gathered in one spot. In nature, a crowd is not a community. A crowd is a target. While the researchers were mesmerized by the orderly rows of icefish nests, the camera began to pick up something else. Scattered between the active, guarded homes were dead zones, piles of white bones, empty shells of what used to be protectors. This is the conflict in our story. You see, the icefish is a devoted parent, but their devotion comes at a terrifying price. They do not leave their nests to eat. They sit, they wait, and they starve while they protect the next generation. This is a slow suicide for the sake of survival, but as they grow weaker, their bodies consuming their own muscle for energy, the shadows around them begin to move. Researchers found that this massive colony attracts a specific kind of visitor from the surface, Weddell seals. But these aren't just normal seals looking for a quick snack. These are the elite divers of the animal kingdom. Satellite data showed that these seals were diving deeper than we ever thought possible, specifically targeting this hidden city. They are traveling miles under the solid ice to reach this buffet. Imagine the pressure. Imagine the absolute darkness. The seals are using biological sonar to find the one place in the Antarctic where food is guaranteed. But here is the rehook. The seals aren't the most dangerous thing down there. Let's break down the impossible nature of this hunt. A Weddell seal is a mammal. It breathes air just like you. To reach the colony, it has to hold its breath for nearly an hour. It has to swim through water that is barely above freezing. It has to navigate a labyrinth of ice keels that hang down from the surface like inverted mountains. If it gets lost, it drowns. If it miscalculates its oxygen, it drowns. So why risk it? Because the reward is shocking. The colony represents the highest concentration of biomass in the entire Southern Ocean. For a seal, this isn't just a meal, it's a gold mine. When the researchers analyzed the tracking data, they saw the seals returning to the same spot over and over again. They were diving into the thermal hole like commuters taking a train. They would descend into the blackness, guided by the sound of the colony. Remember that sound? The low-frequency hum of 60 million fish. To a seal, that sound is a dinner bell ringing across the abyss. They descend silently. They do not use bioluminescence. They are shadows within shadows. And when they strike, they leave behind the dead zones that littered the camera feed, carcasses stripped of flesh, bones settling into the soft mud. The ghost fish has no defense against a predator of this size. It simply sits on its nest, guarding its eggs until the end. This is survival in its most brutal form. Forget what you know about the deep sea food chain. Usually, at these depths, you find small crustaceans or perhaps a stray eel, but the German camera system captured tracks in the mud that were several feet wide. Something heavy had been dragging itself across the seafloor. It wasn't a fish. It wasn't a seal. When you look at the ancient mysteries of this continent, you realize we have always suspected something massive survives under the ice. The tracks meandered between the nests, crushing some, avoiding others. It suggests a scavenger, A bottom feeder of megalithic proportions. Could it be an unknown species of giant sea spider? Or is it something ancient, a remnant of the Great Flood era that has adapted to the crushing dark? If you skip this next part, you'll miss how these tracks connect to a 10,000-year-old climate secret. The question remains, how does this colony stay warm enough to attract such predators? This is where the survival bucket of our analysis comes in. Scientists discovered that the water temperature wasn't just a fluke. The colony is positioned directly over a geothermal upwelling. The Earth's crust is thin here. Heat from the mantle is leaking into the ocean. This creates a life bubble. Without this heat, the 60 million nests would freeze solid in hours. But this heat is a double-edged sword. It creates a beacon, an infrared signal that says, life is here, to everything in the deep. We found that the icefish are actually using the heat to speed up the incubation of their eggs. What should take years takes months. They are hacking biology. But they aren't the only ones using the heat. Strange, gelatinous creatures, predatory tunicates, and sea spiders the size of dinner plates have been seen crawling toward the light of the camera. The colony isn't just a nursery, it's a battlefield. The heat accelerates metabolism. It makes everything faster, hungrier, and more aggressive. In the rest of the Antarctic, life is slow. Here, it is hypercharged. The thermal engine is driving an ecosystem that runs on a completely different clock than the rest of the world. Let's keep it simple. Earth is a machine. Antarctica is the cooling system. But this colony is a hotspot in the middle of the freezer. If these hotspots are more common than we think, our entire map of the ocean is wrong. We assume the deep ocean is uniform, cold, dark, dead. But if the sea floor is pockmarked with these thermal vents, then there could be thousands of hidden cities waiting to be found. And that leads us to the most shocking discovery of the expedition. How do you organize 60 million of anything? There is no leader icefish. Yet, the nests are spaced exactly 10 inches apart. Precision that would make a human architect jealous. This isn't random, this is swarm intelligence. Each fish calculates the exact distance needed to guard its eggs without bumping into its neighbor. If one fish moves, the whole city shifts. It is a living, breathing organism. But the researchers noticed that in certain areas, the order was broken. Nests were crushed, not by a predator, but by the ice itself. The Filchner Ice Shelf is moving. It's grinding against the seafloor. This means the colony is in a race against time. The ice is a slow-motion wrecking ball, and 60 million lives are in its path. We are witnessing a cataclysm in slow motion. The very roof that protects them is also the ceiling that is slowly crushing them. When the ice scrapes the bottom, it erases history. It wipes out thousands of nests in an instant. And yet, the fish return. They rebuild. They lay new eggs. This cycle of destruction and rebirth has likely been happening for millennia. But the seals and the ice aren't the only threats. The camera also picked up invertebrates that look like they belong on another planet. Starfish with too many arms, sponges that are thousands of years old, and the sea spiders, pycnogonids. In most of the ocean, these are tiny. Here, due to a phenomenon called polar gigantism, they grow to the size of dinner plates. They walk on long, spindly legs over the nests. They are nightmare fuel. They probe the mud for eggs. The icefish parents snap at them, flaring their gills, but the spiders are relentless. It creates a scene that feels like ancient lost history, a glimpse into a primordial world where monsters still roam. The water here is rich in oxygen, which allows these creatures to grow larger than physics should allow. It is a land of giants hidden in a microscopic world. Why do the dead zones matter so much? Because they prove that the system is finite. The camera didn't just see fresh kills, it saw layers of bones, sediment layers that suggest this colony has been here for a very, very long time. We are looking at a mass grave that is also a nursery. It challenges our human desire for a happy ending. In the ancient enigma of nature, there are no happy endings. There is only energy transfer from the heat of the earth to the blood of the fish, to the belly of the seal, to the scavengers in the mud. It is a perfect, cruel machine, and we have only just opened the hood to see the engine running. Now that we've seen the predators and the pressure, we have to ask the ultimate question. What happens if the ice wins? And more importantly, what did the researchers find when they sent the camera into the forbidden zone at the very edge of the thermal hole? We are moving into the ancient discoveries that science still can't explain. The deeper the camera went, the more the order of the city began to decay. We are now entering the edge of the thermal hole. a place where the water temperature spikes and the biology turns impossible. Most people think Antarctica is a dead block of ice, but at the edge of this colony, the researchers found a forbidden zone. It's a place where the seabed drops off into a vertical abyss, and here, the icefish nests stop. Replacing them is something far more mysterious. Large, black structures that look like organic chimneys. They aren't made of mud, they are made of minerals, and they are pulsing. The Polar Stern team watched in silence as the OFOB's camera drifted over this boundary. The neat, circular bowls of the icefish vanished. In their place was a chaotic, jagged landscape that looked like the ruins of a lost city. This is the conflict of geology and biology. The thermal water here isn't just warm, it is chemically distinct. It is loaded with methane. It is toxic to most life. And yet, the ghostfish have built their nursery right on the precipice of this poison. Why? Because the poison brings the heat. And in the Antarctic, heat is worth dying for. This is where the emotional rhythm of the story shifts from curiosity to awe. The researchers realized they weren't just looking at a fish colony, they were looking at the lung of the Southern Ocean. 60 million fish breathing in unison creates a massive chemical footprint. The amount of carbon and nitrogen being processed here is shocking. It's a biological factory that has been running for 10,000 years. But if the chemistry shifts even slightly, the entire survival of the Weddell Sea is at risk. Imagine a city where the air suddenly becomes toxic. That is what happens when the thermal hull fluctuates. The water becomes hypoxic. Oxygen levels drop. The ghostfish, who rely on absorbing oxygen through their skin, begin to suffocate in their own homes. And the researchers found evidence that it has happened before. Layers of sediment showed mass die-offs, moments in history where the engine stopped, where the forbidden zone expanded and swallowed the colony whole. This is the terrifying reality of living on a geothermal vent. It gives life, but it can also take it away in an instant. We are looking at a civilization living on the slope of a volcano, and the volcano is waking up. Forget what you think you know about ancient history. We usually look for ruins on land, but the most terrifying mysteries are often built of bone and mud beneath the waves. In this forbidden zone, the camera caught sight of ancient artifacts of nature, gigantic fossilized nests. Nests that are 10 times larger than the ones being used today, which raises a question that science still can't explain. What kind of creature built those? If you skip the next part, you'll miss the shocking connection between these giants and the modern icefish. The ghostfish is small, barely the size of a dinner plate, but the fossilized nests suggest a predecessor, a superhuman version of the icefish that once ruled this thermal hole. Researchers call this polar gigantism, but that is just a label for something we don't fully understand. In the deep past, the oxygen levels in the Southern Ocean were different. They allowed for monsters. The giant sea spiders are just the leftovers. The original architects of this city might have been fish the size of sharks. Researchers believe these giants vanished during the last Great Flood, or a shift in the Earth's crust 12,000 years ago. The modern colony is just a simplified version of an ancient empire. They are squatters in the ruins of their ancestors. But why did they shrink? The answer is low cognitive load applied to biology. Complexity requires energy. In a world of darkness, the brain and the body have to be tighter and clearer to survive. The icefish evolved to be the perfect, efficient, faceless worker of the deep. They stripped away everything unnecessary. No red blood, no unnecessary scales, just pure, specific survival. They are the minimalists of the ocean, but the fossilized nests remind us that they used to be kings. Let's look at the hidden engine that powers this entire system. The thermal hole is not just a crack in the ground, it is a conveyor belt. The warm water rises because it is less dense. As it hits the cold ceiling of the ice shelf, it cools and sinks. This creates a toroidal vortex, a donut-shaped current that traps nutrients in a loop. The fish have figured out exactly where to build their nests to stay inside this loop. If they build too far out, they freeze. If they build too far in, they hit the forbidden zone and poison their eggs. They are walking a tightrope of survival that is only a few meters wide. The camera captured this impossible precision. At the edge of the safe zone, you can see nests that failed. Abandoned bowls where the parents miscalculated the current by a few inches. Inside those bowls, the eggs are white and dead, covered in fungus. It is a stark reminder of the high stakes involved. Nature does not forgive mistakes here. One wrong move, one bad measurement, and your genetic line ends. This is where most people get it wrong. They think the fish are the main event. They aren't. The fish are just the click confirmation for a much bigger story. The real power is the unexplained phenomena happening in the water itself. The water isn't just warm, it's highly guarded by the physics of the ice shelf. And beneath the forbidden zone, the sensors picked up a deep-sea mystery that shouldn't exist. A sound. A low-frequency hum that matches no known animal on Earth. We will get to that shocking revelation in a moment, but first, you have to understand what lies inside the mud. The OFOB's camera is equipped with a sub-bottom profiler. This is a sonar that can see through the mud, like an X-ray. When the researchers turned it on, they didn't just see the surface nests. They saw layers, nest on top of nest, on top of nest, going down for meters. This colony isn't just large in space, it is large in time. The data suggests that the ghost fish have been using this exact spot for thousands of years. It is an ancient civilization, in the truest sense. While the Egyptians were building the pyramids, the fish were building these mounds. While Rome was burning, the fish were guarding their eggs. This site is a time capsule of the Earth's climate history. Every layer of mud holds chemical clues about what the ocean was like in the past, and the clues are terrifying. They show that the thermal hull is unstable. It pulses, it turns on and off, and when it turns off, the mass die-offs occur. We are currently living in a Goldilocks period where the vent is active but stable, but the sub-bottom profiler shows that this period is the exception, not the rule. The rule is chaos. The rule is extinction. And the fish are living on borrowed time. There is another layer to this forbidden zone that the camera almost missed. Bacterial mats. Strange, fuzzy carpets of white and gray that cover the rocks near the vents. These bacteria don't use sunlight. They use chemosynthesis. They eat the methane and sulfur coming out of the earth. And here is the mind-blowing connection. The fish nests are often found right next to these bacterial mats. Why? Because the bacteria generate their own heat. It's a tiny amount, but in the freezing dark, every calorie counts. The fish are essentially farming the bacteria. They are using the ancient biology of the deep earth to incubate their young. This is a level of symbiosis that we usually only see in science fiction or in stories about alien visitors. But this is happening right here on our planet, beneath the ice. We also need to talk about the technology required to even see this forbidden zone. The OFOBs isn't just a GoPro on a string. It is a multi-million-dollar sled towed by a fiber optic cable. It has to withstand pressures that would crush a tank. It has to send 4K video up 5 kilometers of wire without latency. The ice shelf is constantly moving, threatening to snap the cable. The currents are unpredictable. At one point, the team almost lost the camera to a sudden shift in the ice. It was a survival story for the equipment as much as for the fish. But without this risk, the forbidden zone would have remained a black spot on the map forever. This highlights the stakes of deep-sea exploration. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the Weddell seafloor, and every time we look, we find something that breaks our understanding of biology. Now that we've touched the edge of the abyss, we have to look at the hidden connection. We've seen the chemistry, we've seen the fossils, we've seen the danger, but we haven't explained the most mysterious thing of all. What is making that sound? And how does it control the movement of 60 million fish? We are heading into the heart of the ancient megastructures built by nature itself. While the researchers watched the silent rows of the ghost fish, their hydrophones captured a reality that was shocking. A low, rhythmic hum was vibrating through the seabed. It wasn't the sound of the ice moving. It wasn't the sound of the currents. It was a mysterious pulse that seemed to synchronize with the breathing of the colony. Imagine 60 million creatures acting as one single, biological amplifier. In the survival stories of the deep, we often find that animals use sound to navigate. But this was different. This sound was coming from deep beneath the pyramids of mud and bone. This is the hidden connection that science is only beginning to understand. The fish aren't just living here. They are part of a megalithic biological machine. The water in the Weddell Sea is incredibly dense. Sound travels 4 times faster in water than in air. And in this density, the movement of millions of pectoral fins creates a pressure wave that acts like a force field. It confuses the sensory organs of smaller predators. It creates a zone of confusion where only the icefish can navigate clearly. This is ancient technology at its finest, biological warfare using nothing but physics. People who understand this think completely differently about the ocean. We usually see fish as individual actors, drifting aimlessly, but in this ancient city, they function like a neural network. Each nest is a node, each parent is a guardian of a specific frequency. The icefish possesses a sensory organ called the lateral line. It runs down the side of their transparent bodies. It detects minute changes in water pressure. With nests spaced exactly 10 inches apart, every fish is plugged into its neighbor. If a predator enters the colony 3 miles away, the disturbance in the pressure wave ripples through the entire city in seconds. The colony knows before the individual sees. Researchers believe this hum might be a defense mechanism against the terrifying predators of the abyss. When a seal or a giant sea spider enters the forbidden zone, the frequency shifts. It creates a controlled pain in the sensory organs of the intruder. The colony doesn't fight with teeth, it fights with tension. But there is a warning loop you need to hear. If this hidden engine of sound is disrupted by human sonar or climate shifts, the resolution is total collapse. Forget everything I just said about this being a simple biological discovery. The team found that the thermal hole is actually shrinking. The 10,000-mile tunnels of warm water that feed this colony are being choked by the movement of the ice shelf. This means we have discovered the world's largest colony just as it has reached its final days. If you skip this next part, you'll miss the impossible truth about what was found inside the secret vaults of the fossilized nests. To understand the threat, look up. Above the colony sits the Filchner Ice Shelf. It is a floating extension of the Antarctic ice sheet. It is hundreds of meters thick, but the bottom of the ice isn't flat like a ceiling. It is jagged. It has keels, massive, inverted mountains of ice that hang down into the black water. Some of these keels are deep enough to scrape the bottom of the ocean. This is the scouring. When the tide shifts, or a piece of the shelf breaks off, these keels drag across the mud like a plow. The OFOBS camera captured the aftermath of these events. Long, violent scars in the sediment where thousands of nests had been erased in an instant. No survivors. Just a trench of churned mud and crushed bones. This is the terror of the Weddell Sea. The colony is built in a war zone, but the shocking part is the recovery. Inside these scars, the camera saw new life. Within weeks of a scouring event, the ghost fish return. They recolonize the death strip. They dig new bowls in the ruins of the old ones. It is a cycle of destruction and creation that has been happening for millennia. It proves that the drive to survive is stronger than the ice itself. Deep in the dead zones, the camera found something that science still can't explain. It wasn't just old nests. It was a massive ancient structure made of symmetrical stones. These weren't formed by volcanic activity. They looked like megalithic foundations. Researchers believe these are drop stones, rocks that were carried by glaciers from the continent and dropped into the ocean when the ice melted. But the way they are arranged suggests something else. The currents around the vents have sorted them, pushed them into piles that act as windbreaks for the nests. The ghost fish are using the geology to their advantage. They are building their homes behind these ancient boulders to protect them from the flow. It is a primitive form of urban planning. Could a lost civilization of biological life have once used these thermal holes as a resource? Or is nature capable of mind-blowing engineering that we simply don't recognize? The ghost fish are now building their homes on top of these ancient clues. It is a history for sleep that is suddenly waking up. The fish are the new tenants of an ancient apartment complex. This is where most tutorials completely fall apart when explaining Antarctic biology. They focus on the cold, but the shocking reality is the heat. The internal engine of our planet is leaking through the Weddell Sea, and the 100+ terrifying things found in the deep sea are all moving toward this leak, including something the researchers call the Three-Eye Atlas mystery, a signature of something large and unexplained that is currently moving under the colony. This isn't a predator from above. It is a geological shift from below. The sensors picked up a tremor, a subtle shift in the seabed that could signal the end of the thermal hole entirely. What happens if the heat stops? The outcome loop is terrifying. The ghost fish have adapted so perfectly to this specific temperature that they cannot live anywhere else. They are trapped. If the vent closes, the colony dies. If the colony dies, the seals starve. If the seals starve, the larger predators move on. The the entire megalithic ecosystem collapses into mud, and the ancient history buried in the sediment suggests this has happened dozens of times before. We are looking at a phoenix colony, one that rises from the ashes of its own extinction every few thousand years. But this time, the human impact might change the cycle. Climate change is altering the flow of the Weddell Gyre. It is warming the surface waters, thinning the ice shelf. You might think thinning ice is good for the fish. It isn't. Thinner ice moves faster. It breaks easier. It creates more scouring events. We are turning their roof into a weapon. There is one final mystery in this section: the invisible wall at the edge of the colony. The camera showed that the nests stop abruptly at a specific line. There is no physical barrier, no wall of rock, just open mud. So why don't they expand? The sensors revealed the answer: oxygen. The thermal hole creates a precise column of oxygenated water. Step 1 meter outside of it, and the oxygen levels drop by 40%. For a fish with no hemoglobin, that meter is a death sentence. They are living in an invisible cage made of chemistry. This explains the density. They aren't huddled together for warmth. They are huddled together for air. It changes how we view the intelligence of the swarm. They know exactly where the line is. They can feel the oxygen drop on their skin. It is a sensory ability that we can barely comprehend. Now that we've seen the hidden engine and the ancient structures, we must face the final reflection. What happens when the ice shelf finally closes the thermal hole? And what is the one thing you must understand about the ghost fish before they disappear forever? We are heading into the resolution of the Uncharted mystery. The story isn't just about fish. It's about the future of our planet. Now you know why this never worked before and exactly how to fix it. For decades, we viewed Antarctica as a static, frozen barrier. We thought it was a place where life went to sleep. But the discovery of 60 million ghost fish has forced a redefinition of history. This isn't just a biological fluke. It is the final piece of a puzzle that spans the entire Southern Ocean. We've explored the impossible colony, the shadow predators, and the hidden engine pulsing beneath the mud. We have seen the megalithic structures of the nests and the terrifying efficiency of the seals. But as we reach the climax of this journey, one shocking revelation remains. The thermal hole isn't just a nursery for fish, it is a time capsule. The researchers believe that this specific colony is the last of its kind, a remnant of a lost world that used to cover the entire ocean floor before the ice ages began. We are looking at the survivors of a planetary freeze, and they are holding on by a thread. The easier something is to understand, the smarter the speaker feels. So, let's look at the simple truth. The icefish are the canaries in the coal mine for our planet's survival. Their clear blood and antifreeze proteins are ancient clues that suggest life can adapt to impossible conditions, provided there is a resolution to the energy problem. By guarding their nests in total darkness, they are maintaining a biological order that prevents the unexplained chemistry of the deep from spiraling out of control. This is the key moment of revelation. We aren't just watching fish, we are watching the protectors of a 10,000-year-old climate balance. They stir the water, they cycle the nutrients, they feed the seals. They are the heartbeat of the Weddell Sea. Without them, the seafloor becomes a dead zone permanently. The emotional rhythm here is vital. We started with curiosity about a strange fish. We moved to fear of the predators. Now, we should feel relief that they exist, and fear that they might not exist for long. The stakes have never been higher. Forget everything I just said about the colony being safe. The terrifying mystery is that we found them just as they are about to vanish. The ice shelf is a slow-motion wrecking ball that no one can stop. But what the researchers found in the final scans of the underground city will haunt the scientific community for years. It wasn't a new discovery, but an ancient warning. The sub-bottom profiler revealed that the thermal vents are migrating. The heat source is moving west, but the fish cannot move their nests. They are locked into the mud by instinct and biology. If the heat moves just 5 kilometers, the forbidden zone will overtake the nursery. The oxygen will drop. The ghosts will suffocate. We are witnessing the final days of a metropolis. What happens when a city of 60 million dies? It leaves a mark. The ancient artifacts we found, the fossilized nests, prove that this has happened before. But this time, we are watching it happen. The ghost fish have no concept of the future. They only know the now. They fan their eggs, they chase away the spiders, they die so their children can live. It is a simple story of survival, played out on a megalithic scale, but it teaches us something profound about life on Earth. Life does not need us. It does not need sunlight. It does not need red blood. It only needs an engine. And as long as the Earth's core stays hot, Something will always be breathing beneath the ice. We must also acknowledge the tool that made this possible. The OFOBS camera system. It is the eye of humanity peering into the dark. Without it, the ghost fish would have remained a myth, a deep-sea mystery whispered about by sailors but never seen. This proves that we are entering a new age of exploration. We have mapped Mars better than we have mapped the Weddell Sea, but technology is finally catching up to nature. The scans that revealed the underground city are just the beginning. What else is hiding in the 10,000 miles of tunnels beneath the crust? What other forbidden zones are waiting for a camera to drift by? Because the answers are always stranger than fiction, the brain wants resolution more than it wants pleasure. The final days of this colony remind us that the ancient enigma of Earth are often hidden right beneath our feet. The ghost fish have survived the Great Flood and the collapse of empires above the ice. They represent a success of evolution that is shocking in its simplicity. They don't need red blood, they don't need sunlight, and they don't need human intervention. They only need the silence of the deep. And maybe that is the lesson. In a noisy world, the most successful society is the one that stays quiet. The one that builds its megalithic structures in the dark. The one that values survival over spectacle. The ghost fish are not monsters. They are monks, tending to their gardens of ice and bone, waiting for the heat to die. Now you know why this never worked before. We used to think the deep sea was a wasteland. Now we know it is a megalithic metropolis. This journey has taken us from a research vessel to the heart of an ancient mystery. It is a summary of the journey that proves we are not the first great civilization to realize the power of the Earth's internal heat. As the camera systems are pulled back to the surface and the Filchner Ice Shelf closes its secret vaults, the ghost fish remain. They are waiting in the darkness, guarding a history that we are only beginning to read. They are the guardians of the pole, and they are watching us back, encouraging viewers to explore more about the secrets hidden beneath our feet. If you found this shocking discovery as mysterious as we did, there are thousands of miles of ancient tunnels still waiting to be explored. The ocean is deep, the ice is thick, but the truth is always warmer than you think. The ancient enigma of our world are far from over, because every time we look down, we find something looking up. The ghost fish are just the beginning. The real mystery is what lies beneath them. In the rock, in the mantle, in the core. Sleep well. But remember, the ice is moving, and the city is alive.